various places around the Metroplex, so everybody has a chance to kind of come in and see the fighting. The fighting, when we go out in the parks, we have try and have as many banners and many things going as we can, and that will attract folks and let them know that we exist. Right now, the fighter practice all weather is over at the church because we have a gymnasium that is air conditioned and we really, really like it. Okay, so EMS nights, depending on what it is, people making costumes, people making jewelry, people doing arts and crafts, that sort of thing, is generally how that person's home who does that. So if you're doing stuff with metalworking and blacksmithing, you're going to be going to their forge, you don't have to set the forge at your home. Depending on what kind of things you're crafting, you may be asked to, get some materials, but it's always kind of nice because at first you're not really sure which kind of materials to get to go after an example of somebody else that's doing things. So going to an arts and science night, you don't have to worry about bringing anything unless the person that really would say, hey, I'm going to do this. If you bring this, that'll be great. The guilds, like a brewer's guild or a lot of
the cooking guild.
Calligraphy guilds and all that other fun stuff, that's usually done at somebody's house also. Make and take workshops, I'm trying to get some of those going. We are working on them. Our often has been so generous as to help us set up at the Dallas Makerspace. So we have lots of different make and takes that we're going to hopefully start to do. The first one is going to be doing things out of plastic barrels for armor and that sort of thing. Because plastic is a whole lot lighter, it's a whole lot more forgiving, and because you initially can make your set for under $50 to get armor, you can get out, try it, see how you like it, and then if you don't, you're out $50 as opposed to out considerably more for a metal suit. All right, you want to make sure that you have drinks and snacks as needed. Sometimes people provide it, but it's always nice, like with a party, to go ahead and take a 6-pack with you. Not necessarily an alcoholic beverage, especially if you're doing with metal, but things that may, keep you hydrated, that sort of thing. Personal comfort items. Some people get hot, some people get cold, so you want a flannel wrap and a fan. And you have these things usually in a lovely basket or container that you're able to take with you wherever you go. Because baskets really medievally worked really well, and we notice in the new medieval age, they work even better because it keeps all of our parts in one spot. Nice to have a recharger and that sort of thing. Basically, just try it all. See which parts you like of it, and then do more of the ones you like. The other thing is you don't have to make it all. So when you see somebody in a beautiful attire like this, you don't have a clue how to sew, like me, you can either contract with somebody, or sometimes you can find bits and pieces. Like most of the stuff is from the different fairs, Scarborough and TRF and that sort of thing. But it's functional, the fabric wears really well. So if it ain't broke, we don't fix it. But if you were going to be doing, say, an arts and science competition where you're doing a specific period piece, then you get into a little more detail of, well, this is the jewelry that they wore, and this is how they did their headdress, and this, all that other fun stuff. And I'm sure Laura will be happy to tell you all about it. As long as you have a drink, you've recently gone to the bathroom, and have your food right next to you, feel free to ask them. So the first thing is day tripping indoor events. We have a couple of those. Normally, arts and science events are set up in a gymnasium or a church. That is another one where you're coming indoors, you're doing a big table decoration kind of contest usually is held. They'll usually have a theme for it. You usually have live music, you'll have dancing, you'll have a feast that's usually 4 or 5 removes. So, it's really great. And the nice thing is unlike Scarborough and TRF and that sort of thing, instead of trying to charge you for the air we breathe, you're just charged a nominal fee, usually $20, $25 a person for the whole feast and everything else. So site fees are usually a lot lower than you would expect going into Scarborough or something like that. Guard. At first, you can make an effort. That's kind of what we try and see. Arts and science people and the hospitaler usually has costumes that other people have had or donated to them. So you can kind of see, I don't necessarily say, hey, you're going to be an Elizabethan on your first event, because that's a lot of work. So what we try and do is, go simple the first few times. It really appeals to you. This is hot. We have garb everywhere from Roman all the way to high Elizabethan, and it just kind of depends on where you want to settle. I will say Texas in the summer tends to push me more towards Roman, but in the winter I'm going to go towards Norland or something like that. That's a little bit weightier cloth and that sort of thing. So tabards also will cover a multitude of sins. So if you just have a basic t-shirt and jeans, then you throw a tabard over it and belt it, you're good to go. And a tabard is 2 pieces of material with a square neck on the head. I can even do that one. All right, so there are tables. Are there tables and chairs? Usually there are, depending on where you're going, but if you're at a park and you've got a whole lot more people than you have picnic tables, then it makes sense for you to bring in a camp chair with you, just so you've got somewhere to sit. Also, the shade kind of tends to move, so it's nice to be able to move your things instead of relying on the picnic table to be there. Table decorations to lay out whenever, okay, why is it doing that? Oh.
Did the TV go to sleep?
No, there it is, okay.
Never mind.
So at some of the larger indoor events, what they're going to do is a table decoration contest. So you'll see people doing really amazing elaborate setups and that sort of stuff. You don't have to do that first time you're here. As long as you're able to get a trencher, a bowl, if there's a soup or something, and a glass and something to eat with, you're golden. So don't worry about trying to get super special initially. See what other people are doing around you.
We have some to loan from the hospital.
Yes. Hospitalers boxes are a wonderful thing. So feast gear, you want cooler and covers. It's a little nicer if you can cover up your cooler. It makes the ambiance still a little bit better. Food beverages, most of the time you're going to see in the event announcement whether alcohol is allowed or not. But regardless, whatever beverage you're trying to do, a good first purchase is like one of those pewter mugs or that sort of thing. It keeps things a little bit more Renaissance-y whenever you're drinking and eating. And, you can have whatever kind of beverage you want in that particular mug, depending on, what's going on at the site. Mugs, plates, bowls, you can get these at Goodwill a lot of times. The good example is the picture here that they got. All that stuff is pretty much readily available at Goodwill. Now, big thing, is there a way to wash your dishes at the end of the feast? Sometimes there is, sometimes there's not. If we get really amazingly, if we get folks that are doing things like, sometimes you want to have a new big group tent banner or something like that, in which case you get the Baronian people stepping up and doing, hey, we'll wash your dishes for donation. And so they'll wash the dishes for you and put them back. But a lot of times, don't count on that, but there are these lovely things called 2-gallon Ziploc bags that will fit any platter size, and you can toss it in there, zip it up, toss it in your basket, take it home and just put it in the dishwasher. So that works out really well. Entertainment, there's going to be arts and sciences. If Harapan is there will definitely be medieval games. Harapan is our local expert.
If you're nice, there might be mead.
Yeah, there might be mead. Music, medieval music and that sort of stuff, and medieval dancing are usually taught. You do not have to know what the steps are. They're simple and repetitive. So it's kind of like line dancing, but with lovely long sleeves. And so we'll go over the steps with you. You'll listen to the music. You'll be able to start off. And at some of the larger events like 12th Night and that, we even have live music, where my wife and I and several other people form the Gryffindor Consort, which is a bunch of people. Griff and
Guess which one's the Ravenclaw?
Yeah. So you're going to have many people doing many different things. The nice thing about recreating medieval history is it's all open. No matter what weird little side trip you decide to take, there will be somebody that will go, that's cool. And unlike going to the Renaissance fairs and that, instead of charging you for the air you breathe and going, hey, it's this much, you move on like, really? You're interested in this? Well, let me tell you about it. Would you like to do it? Would you like to do 3 of them? Let me know. And one of the nice things is you'll get recognition. A lot of times they'll do scrolls. So if you're in all kind of hating the numbers kind of person, you can do all these really amazing scrolls that we give out, and the king or the baron will be giving out different things. That's another thing we'll do at the feast, is they do award ceremonies for different levels of achievement that are going on. Largesse is basically, you're a part of the nobility. So it's kind of fun to have something that when people come around and are talking to you, you can just give out because it's kind of fun. Chocolate coins work, any little thing, bead things work. And yeah, there we go.
One for you last week, so, there you go.
And what I've included with these is online, when you go to this particular event, you can click on the little link. It'll take you to YouTube for this person that made the piece basket. They talk through all the different items in their piece basket, why they chose them, where they found them, and what kind of basket to get, and all the other fun stuff.
We have a question from the internet.
Oh,
You would like
my
it?
gosh.
It says, hello
Hello,
from
internet.
the Barony of Namron. What advice do you have for camping in high winds?
We have that. Okay, the first thing is, if you're camping, if you're wondering if your pop-up is gonna like start wandering around like a umbrella in a high wind, the first thing is to obviously stake down the legs, but the next thing is not as obvious. You can get EMT tubing over at Home Depot, and then you get the connectors for it. The tubing you can get them to cut it into 4-foot lengths or 5-foot lengths. But if you had a 10-foot piece of EMT tubing, have it cut into 2 5s, put a connector on it, that means when you go to your event, as you know, the scissoring of the pop-ups collapses in a sideways thing. Whenever you get the EMT tubing, as long as you can provide lateral stability to it, it'll prevent that collapse. It'll prevent your pop-up from blowing away or being blown over by the wind. So using, be a pop down.
I mean, a box height.
So when you put the EMT tubing, you set it up onto the crisscrosses and zip tie it to the side of the frame, and that'll make your pop-up a lot more stable in the high winds.
Thank you.
Did that help?
I'm sure.
If not, I will bore you more.
You guys can keep commenting if you're watching. We'll answer all of them. By we, I mean Sean.
So day tripping indoors, or outdoors actually, sorry. All of the indoor stuff applies. Plus, with outdoors, we're in Texas. You want to take your shade with you because you never know where that sun's going to be, and it's really, really nasty. It will burn you in a minute. Take your own tables and chairs because you're not knowing what's going to be provided there at the site. You want gloves, you want sunscreen, towelettes are nice to have, bug spray, your first aid kit, kind of the basic how to take things. Pickle juice is honestly your secret weapon because that will replace the electrolytes, and if you're super, super dehydrated and hot, it really helps in the middle of our summers. Obviously, water in a folding wagon is really kind of a necessity. It used to not be, but we're camping a lot more away from the parking lots now. And so it makes life so much easier if you can toss your chairs and everything else in the wagon, take it with you to where you're setting it up near the list field, then pack it back up and drag it back to your car. It saves a lot of back and forth. All right, so the make and take is if you get the Reflectix from Home Depot, it will keep the cooler a lot longer. However, it's ugly. So you want to cover it. Now this is as good as I get. What I'm trying to get is a pocketed piece of fabric that I can slide the Reflectix in, and then it kind of looks better because then it actually lifts up in that. But this is as good as I get right now. If you go way over the top, this is what you want. It's beautiful, it's lovely, and I can probably make it with my stuff in my garage. However,
Or the makerspace.
that is or the makerspace. Makerspace
Absolutely.
is a lovely thing. It opens us up to stained glass. It opens us up to a lot of things you can't do in a garage because fire, things like that.
Well, you can do anything in a garage once.
True. Once. All right, so children. This little symbol over on the right, the purple and white one, is basically the Ministry of Children symbol. So in other words, let's see, the Ministry of Children versus your random adult. It's like, or who is this person with my child? If they have one of these symbols on, it means that they have a background check, and they do have certain rules that they're following for the entertainment of children, as opposed to come this way to the van. So
We have puppies.
yeah, we have puppies. And puppies. So kids that are like 0 to 5 years old, it's really better for the parent because they know their needs a little bit more. So it's better for the parents to be able to be with them, keep them out of the sun, keep them cool or warm, hydrated, that sort of thing. Whenever they hit about 5 to 10, they kind of turn into amoebas. There's a whole little group of them, and they will be kind of going through the whole event, but they become camp locusts.
But you
Because-
want to keep them in earshot or eyeshot. They are
Yes.
still your children.
They're still your children, and if you have the coolers out there, have one for the kids, have one for the adults. Because the worst thing to do is you come stumbling back in after fighting and all that, you're trying to get rehydrated, your, sippy cup of stuff is in this one, and they have completely pillaged it by the time you get back. So instead of, hunting down your child, it's easier just to have your own separate cooler. And they will have their friends come in and help them drink it. And it's always a lot of fun after they have done this to their own cooler to go, yes, now what do you want to do? You gave one to everybody. So the other thing is fighting, because the kids can fight with foam weapons. And we also do protective gear for them. There's a martial art for children specifically for both the chivalric, which is here with the shields and swords and all that, and they have foam weapons, and also the rapier. When they hit about 10 years old, the pages are a wonderful thing because you can take your child, give them to another set of parents. They will sit there and your child transforms immediately because you will hear all these lovely things of how well your child did, how polite they were, how much help they were setting up camp. And you're going, are you really speaking about my child? Because they never do that for me. But the nice thing is when their child comes to your camp, they're still this amazingly helpful person. So training children is a good thing to do to kind of give them a larger group of experience and also encourage them to do more things, because it's one thing if your mom goes, do this. It's another thing if somebody else's mom is like, oh, you're doing that so well. Kids really respond to that. And it's very medieval. So at age 14, they can compete in rapier. Age 16, they can compete in chivalric, the regular kind. But you want to have the parents very close to the field so that they're within eyeshot of the child while they're participating. Okay, at 18, they get to do everything an adult does because they're legally an adult. They get to sign their own life away on a waiver. So, separate checklists for children. You want their medications, their personal items like their cup, their pouch, their hat, their favorite stuffed toy. You want to keep that, especially when they're younger, really near them. You want extra changes of clothing because things get hot, things get cold, and children will go running around in whatever temperature they want. I'm fine. It's like, I'm cold, you need a coat. It's like, I don't need a coat. Your mom's cold, you need a coat.
We're not parents or anything.
Not at all. So you want to use appropriate toys, like the non-electronic kind. Jump ropes, coloring books, they all work well. There's a lot of folks that are out there. Sven is very good about bringing medieval coloring books and sitting down and coloring with the kids. So we try and take care of our kids because they are the next generation. Whoops, for the younger ones. Let's see if we can go back.
Not
Move forward.
Not there.
Yeah. So we're going to go overnight. So Steps Warlord, Braggots War, all that fun stuff. You may wonder what this little green thing or yellow thing is there. That is called glow tape. Glow tape is awesome because in the middle of the night, trying to find a black flashlight under your bed, not a fun experience, especially if it's raining outside and you're trying to go to the porta potty. So glow tape really helps take that away because during the day, it will soak up sun. At night, it's good for at least 4 to 6 hours so you can find your flashlight. You also want to have slip-on shoes. Again, a lot easier than trying to lace things. And sometimes there'll even be hot showers at events. Not often. So it's one of those things that you want to be a little cautious of that. The water may or may not be potable, so be a little cautious with that. Bring your own water with you if you can. Bring hand sanitizer, and you may have to pack your own trash out. That kind of just depends on the type of site. If it's one of the larger sites, most of the time they'll have the infrastructure. Some of the smaller or more primitive sites may not. So it's one of those things of you're going to forget stuff at home. I always do. So whenever we are at an event, the nice thing about being with a group is you can always find somebody with a porch tree. All right, so shelter. You've got your tents. Measure your tent allotments. And once you've set your tent up in your backyard, measure it so you can tell the person that, hey, I got a 10 by, I've got a tent that needs about 10 or 12 foot by 12 foot, and they'll mark it out so you don't like start camping on top of everybody. All right, tent, you want stakes and ground claws. I can't tell you the number of times that you get somewhere and it's like, I thought you had the stakes. Where did the stakes go? And you'll be like 2 stakes short. It's always nice to have somebody near you to go, yeah, yeah, love to do that. Also, ground cloths are really important because air mattresses do not like mesquite. Mesquite is not friendly. And so if you're really good, those big billboards that they have on the side of the road, a lot of times they just have a big vinyl piece on it. They throw those away. And if you get one that is the size of your tent for the bottom, mesquite doesn't poke through that, especially if you double it over. So those are really free things you can get that work really well for camping. Camp furniture. You want to have some kind of seating surface. Also, flat surfaces are really great. If you've got like a flat box, you can put things in it. You can also slide it under your bed sometimes and take it out of the way if you don't need a bedside table. A fan, a heater is nice to have inside the tent, and all the LED lighting you want, that all stuff really works well. It's really fun to find the LED things that look like torches and lanterns and that sort of stuff. The new ones are actually bright enough to read by, which is pretty cool. And they look really good when you're tracing around in the middle of the night. Hang-ups are ways in which you can hang your clothing. They're actually a chest in the bottom, and then they have sides that pop up that you have a closet bar across them, so you can hang your stuff. When you're done, you fold it all up, put it in the box, and take the box away. You might consider a chamber pot, the old 5-gallon pail with the toilet seat on top. Again, if it's raining cats and dogs outside, that's the last time you really want to go to that porta potty. Yeah.
We keep a basin so that we can just pour water in and just wash off with a washcloth in our tent when we can't shower for multi-day events.
Okay. Also, taking a cloak or a shawl or a jacket with you, medication, and when it gets cold, yes, it's nice to have a cloak. Whatever keeps you warm is just fine. Anybody gives you trouble about it, it's like, really? Medications, hankies, extra pins because things will fall off. A sewing kit, again, things will break, things will fall off. Wet weather gear, because sometimes it just pours, and you still have to pack out. So it's nice to have a pair of wellies with one of those rain jackets in one boot and rain pants in the other, and that way you're set if the worst happens. Some kind of nightwear that you can use to go to the porta potty. Slip-on shoes, towels, toiletries, shower supplies, all the other fun stuff. Baby wipes if you really need them because showers are few and far between and not necessarily hot. Sustenance. In your cooler, of course, you will have your beverage of choice, your snacks, coffee. Merchants can have coffee, but the quality varies widely. So be aware of this. We have also discovered the joys of percolators. The old canned ones, they still exist, and they make a very fine cup of coffee. That's according to my wife, because I don't drink coffee. But the other thing is your personal portable water supply and utensils, mugs, plate bowls, all the rest of the stuff. Always nice to have that. Prepping tools. It's nice to have these things, a way to boil water, like a jet boil. Are you familiar with that? Yeah, those are, it's a little propane torch, and it has a big aluminum cup that you use to store the torch and everything in when you're done. But it boils water, about a liter of water in under 2 minutes. So you can do a lot of stuff with that. French press or the percolator is a good thing. And where's one? There it is. SCA courtesy. So when in doubt, you can refer to my lord, my lady. Be respectful. Be sensitive to other people's bedtimes. Don't keep drumming, although at a large event like Warlord, you will have a portion of the camp that is set aside for some people that are going to drum all night long. So if you don't want to party, don't set up near those guys. If you want to party, hey, it's a great thing. And there's nothing more relaxing sometimes than just kind of you're at that halfway state, and if they're a good drumming circle, it's great. If there's two pair of sneakers in a clothes dryer, it's a lot harder to get to sleep because I'm a drummer and it just really irritates you. But other than that, it can be a very soothing thing, kind of like the surf to go to sleep on. Most people are very open, very giving. If you've forgotten something, if you need help with something, everybody is there to help you. But the but is, don't walk straight through camps, stick to the roads, don't pick up anything without asking. Most of the time, the swords are going to be sharp enough to shave with. You don't want to get yourself cut. And also, it's just common courtesy to ask before you do. I've had a friend who somebody came into camp. I don't know if alcohol was involved, but I suspect so. They sat on her drum and broke the drum. Mm. It's like, A, the drum is not furniture. B, sitting on a drum, yeah. They're aluminum, they're not steel. Steel is Jamaica, we'll go that way. Okay, so the other thing is ask before you sit. Yeah, it could be a chair, it could be their only chair. So it's a little more polite. It's like, hey, I'm going into your camp to talk with you, and I'm going to sit in your only chair. It might be musical instruments, and a lot of musical instruments may not necessarily look like much, or they may be in a case that may be, say, a soft-sided case with a wooden instrument. Can be a recipe for disaster if you actually sit on it or walk on it. Some people have enchanted ground. Basically, they're trying to create a very period experience. So there may be period-only topics of conversation. There would be performances of various period instruments, that sort of thing going on. And you don't want to walk through there; it's just kind of rude. But they're awesome to see from the sides. And most people don't mind if you're just hanging out. It's like, wow, that's cool. And eventually, somebody will come over and go, hey, that's cool. Let me talk to you about it. All right, so don't go inside tents without permission. Shouldn't need to be said, but it's something to say. Alongside that, a friend of ours at a big SCA event was out there in the middle of the night, had to go to make a porta potty run, is coming back, and you may have noticed that all tents look alike at about 2 o'clock in the morning. So he goes stumbling into the tent, takes his shoes off, crawls in bed, and the woman goes, John?
His name was not John.
Needless to say, they became best of friends. And as soon as John did come back, all was made well.
Fortunately, it's still funny 20 years later.
Yeah. If you're uncomfortable with anything during an event, walk away and go find the seneschal or the event steward, and they will take care of things. Maybe it's just a thing of explaining what's going on, because there are certain rituals that will be done within camps for people's squires and for other little ceremonial stuff that you may not know of. They may have particular ways of doing things that you're not familiar with. But it's always appropriate to talk to the event steward or to talk to the seneschal and just have things checked out. Because we don't want you to ever feel uncomfortable. We have a no bullying policy, and that applies to everything in the SCA. So if you ever have somebody coming in or you're having any kind of place where you feel uncomfortable, please find somebody with a brass hat. Please find any of the officers. We are happy to help you. Okay. After dark, again, you can ask the Fools Guild or anybody with a white belt, a red belt, a white scarf, a red scarf. They should be happy to walk you back to the parking lot and to make sure that nothing happens. In the beginning, there will be the Earth People. And the Earth People is awesome. It is cheap. It is great. It is big enough for 2 people if they're in their 20s. Then there will be, I am really sick about not being able to stand up to put on my goddamn costume. So at that point, they have this lovely little thing, which is a 10 by 10, which sets up like a pop-up, and then you just flip your tent to it. That is awesome. And then sometimes, hey, let's dress it up a little bit. That's a real simple fix. It's a great tent as a starter tent because it gives you enough space for your air mattress and a few things, and you can dress it up, and it kind of looks it's pretty awesome. And then you go completely overboard.
Just a little bit more.
And everything is fun, just maybe just a little bit more here and a little bit more there. And then it's like, I can have a torch. I don't need to change my light bulbs. So going with your group has got advantages. They usually have a staked out group spot, and as I said, with steps, you are our guests. You will always have a place to camp. You will always have a place to sit. You will always have somebody to be able to answer your dumb questions. Everybody has them. That's why they're done.
Speaking of questions, you have one here.
Another one.
How do you know who the seneschal or event steward is?
The social event, well, when you see somebody who's sort of running about, that's usually the event steward. And if you have somebody trailing behind them, shaking their hands like this, that's usually the seneschal. Now, the easiest way is to find anybody that happens to have a brass hat, a white belt, a red belt, white scarf, red scarf, or anybody around the area that may be from that particular barony will be able to tell you who the steward is, who the seneschal is. But at any point, just by asking anybody around you, they'll be able to direct you to those guys.
Or you go to troll where you.
Oh yeah, anytime when you check in, there will be somebody there to check you into the site, out of the site. They will always know where the stewards are and hopefully where the seneschal is. Sometimes it's hard to track down the stewards because they're going to be going zipping by you in a golf cart. Sometimes it's a little hard to find them because they have so many things to be doing during the event, but they will always be available when you do find them.
Cool.
Any other questions?
That's all we have for now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so other people are good to have with you because they've done the same thing that you've done and they have mastered the art of where they put the corkscrew. As you might have guessed, corkscrews are important at some points. So they've also have other things you may have forgotten, like extra tent pegs and other things, because they've done this a couple times. They also know what's maybe available in the surrounding area, because it never fails. You'll get to an event, you may have just gotten in there, and the light comes on in the car telling you you're not going to be going very far after this. And so it's nice to know if there's a mechanic in the area, where the nearest Walmart is, in case you can find the stuff you've got, like your air mattress got hit by a mesquite thorn, and you put duct tape on it for the night, but oh well, here we go, and we've got to do more things.
Quick question, somebody counts on the floor, would that have been yours?
Wouldn't have mine.
Nope.
No.
Okay.
Sorry to
Thank you.
interrupt.
Thank you.
All right, so again, if you ask the event stewards, they will know what's going on, but having a group around you means that you've got a bigger pool of knowledge to draw from. Finding a way around an event can be challenging. Things are happening all the time, so you've got your arts and science stuff, you got fighting, you've got archery, you've got all these other things going on, and it's really hard the first couple of events to know what to do, where to go, what's going on. That's why a group is kind of nice too, because they can say, well, what's your interest, and direct you into which one you might want to do first. You're always welcome to do all of them, but since everything's going on all at once, it kind of becomes hard. And they have experience doing this. Again, when you run into all these problems that you might run into in camping, having somebody who's been there, done that, it's really helpful. All right, recommendations. Never burn candles in your tent. Please, please, please. I've done too many medical things. That is not a good idea. And because you've got the LEDs, you can have tent elves. It is so awesome to be going back towards your tent in the middle of dusk, and there you are, it's getting dark and you're not really sure, and your tent lights up magically. And for the next 6 hours, it's lit. So having tent elves and scenting the candles so that they turn on at a specific time is really, really nice, especially when you're trying to find things in the dark. All right, putting everything you need for an activity, whether it's putting up your tent, going to feast, whatever medications and that, inventory that sucker. And once you've got an idea of how big your collection of stuff is, find a container that works with that with a lid. So now you've got your bedside table and you've got your stuff that's in there. And when we were doing a lot of tent camping, it was like the tent was its own separate thing, but then once you got that, you had your big, Tupperware thing that allowed you to go in, set up your medications, set up everything you needed for sleeping. I use a CPAP, so it was easy to put that in there and all the other stuff you need. Boxes make really nice surfaces to put stuff on, so have your cloths to toss them from. Just makes it look a little nicer in your tent. Okay, so okay to have duplicates. I don't care if I have 4 AA batteries. I might need just 2, but having extra is good. Having 2 lights is better than no lights. Check your batteries, make sure that your batteries actually work before you go back out on the weekend. And another big thing is escape flows. So you've just done your event. You've been out, you've done everything awesome. All of your stuff is dirty, muddy, or sweaty. At that point, you want to be able to not scream at your spouse. So it's always good to do a last trip by the supposed shower, if there is a shower there, and then put on nice clean clothes to go tramping back to your home with. And also, I do suggest eat before going home. It will save you a lot of wear and tear on your relationships and your spouses. All right, make and take project would be to create those inventory boxes. So put everything together in a pile, list out everything that's in there, put it in a plastic sheet and tape it to the box so you can open the box, look at the sheet and make sure that everything's in there before you leave. And then you'll have one less thing that you have forgotten at home. You will always have one thing you have forgotten at home, but that'll be one less.
Almost always nail clippers.
Yeah. So everything previous, if you're going to be going for the longer than a weekend, but now you want to consider, I'm out at the event. How long is my ice chest going to actually have ice? Chances are not much more than about 48 hours. In that case, you can use non-refrigerated stuff because it's been around forever. So fruit, veggies, cheeses, dried meats, bread, that all works just fine without a refrigerator. And sometimes merchants will have a meal plan for you to buy. Sometimes, again, the quality varies from merchant to merchant. So it's always nice to have your emergency thing because maybe you were out fighting that day and didn't have a chance to get by for lunch. It's really handy to be able to have something to nosh on back at your camp. And don't forget to hydrate because it's Texas. All right, so oatmeal, a couple of soups, noodles, and I've got this whole list sitting there. But all these different things have one thing in common, which they do not need a refrigerator for. Any kind of canned produce works well, but it's really heavy. Fresh produce, most of it will be just fine outside a refrigerator because it's growing on plants until you take it out. And so it'll last a few days, you're going to be out eating just fine. All right, so as you spend more time, you may find that you want to add additional stuff. And you may see really neat things that other people have done. I am a gearhead. I love gadgets. I love ways to do things. So I have a great deal of happiness. This is what I was talking about, of a way to hang your clothes and also store your clothes. So all these little boxes in the bottom slide around and can be taken out and put your clothes in the bottom. Then whenever you get there, you take them out, pop up the rack to put your clothes on, hang them up. And I really think that's an awesome way of using that. This is a nice hand washing station, so you wouldn't have to just rinse off with your bowl. You can actually have a hand pump. So the little thing down here allows you to pump water from one 5-gallon pail up into washing in the basin, and it goes into a second 5-gallon pail that you can take and water a tree with. Then you can go completely nuts, but that would be awesome.
Look at that spice rack.
Yeah. Yeah, I have severe lust for it, and it all folds up into the base. Yeah, I don't want to really camp or cook that much in camp, but it's pretty awesome. So, yeah. So now talk about glamping. This is kind of a nice little setup. This is that 10 by 10 tent with an awning in front of it, and they've done fabric to match both of them. You might see that they got the nice little medieval looking chairs. We have books that have patterns on how to make those. And if we're ever able to do the makerspace, get the CNC stuff, you can even do the nice carved arms that you can see. They've got like little nutwork on them and stuff. The chairs to the left are actually really easier to do. And you can do them out of a piece of plywood. Again, it's handy. You can do it with a jigsaw, but if you can get access to the makerspace, you can do them a lot quicker. And also you can use your router to make these little things in there for decoration. There's a lot of different breakdown furniture that if you look online for the stuff that's been taken out to Burning Man and that sort of stuff, you can do a lot of breakdown furniture. The caveat to that is if you don't put a couple coats of polyurethane on it, it will tend to absorb water because when you get down to Houston, it's super humid and hot and all sorts of other things. But when you put the two together, they will tend to swell. So what will happen is you will put it together when you get there, and it will be awesome during the weekend, and it will take you forever to break it apart. Or you might just use it for campfire. So, it's better if you put the sealer on it to prevent the wood from soaking up as much water. So period pavilions, nobody expects you to have one. They're really awesome. They're beautiful. This has got these beautiful carved, posts coming up. It looks amazing. And unless you want to spend a couple grand on it, you might not be doing that one. The one on the right, again, looks beautiful. The canvas tints actually work really, really well. They regulate temperature very nicely, that sort of thing. They are also a pain to put up with just two people. It's really nice if you have more than two people to help you put it up. The nice thing is, again, if you go with a group, they will generally have more people around to help you put it up. And usually people that have done it before.
You're kind of just amoeba to everybody's
Yes,
tents.
it works so much better.
Mm-hmm.
But this is what you normally see in a typical SCA camp. So you're going to have a few people that have nicer looking canvas tents, even the people that have the little dead ditch tents. And then you're going to see a whole lot of people that this is the first tent that they got from Walmart and they're taking it out for airing.
What did you call it? A dead ditch tent? Earth pimple.
Earth pimple.
Earth pimple.
Yes.
What I heard.
So the earth pimple, and then you have your little square cabin tents,
Mhm.
and then you can do a little bit more with those because the frame will actually support some of the lighter canvas.
Gotcha.
You want to treat the canvas because there's nothing like having a hard rainstorm in Texas where it hits and it goes inside the tent. And this lovely, yeah. Now let's talk about war. This is time you're going for a lot longer periods. You're going a couple weeks. In that case, you're going to need to plan for that. Gulf War is over in, what's the name of that town?
Lumberton, Mississippi.
Yeah, Lumberton, Mississippi. So think Houston because it's kind of close to the coast. And it's going to be 2 weeks. Now, well, I thought they were doing one. Oh, that's sorry. Pensick to Gulf War. So plan on restocking at least a couple times a week. Sometimes they'll actually have ice on site, which is a wonderful thing. And that's where the lighting comes in because if you're the designated iceman, you can go find the ice, put in about 12 bags of ice, take it back to your camp and distribute. Coordinate your food runs with others. Bigger merchant presence. Sometimes you can buy a meal ticket that'll last you the entire event, which is amazing. And also you'll be able to get anything. There were people there from Ukraine last time because for some reason Ukraine is where we get a lot of our armor now. And they actually made the event Gulf War. There's also the medieval furniture that you saw. There's some people that actually make that. You can purchase that there. So you can essentially start off with a large bank balance, and by the time you get to the end, you'll be completely medievalized.
Yeah, bro.
And broke. So, is there a Walmart or Target either on the way in or within easy reach? Because you will forget something, or you'll need to replace your air mattress. Where's the nearest mechanic? Again, when those red lights come on, it's really nice to know you'll be able to get back to wherever you came from. Is ice available on site? How about the trash services? Toilets and showers, all those fun things are good to find out when you first hit the gate. They'll be able to tell you. Usually they'll have a map of it and be showing you where your group might be camped and that sort of thing. And have a cash budget because it is all so pretty.
It's on the hell of my life.
It's
Yes.
really easy to make a mistake, but it's beautiful. And I love ramen. Ramen is my friend. All right, take breaks. It can really be overwhelming, especially in the larger events, because there's always something to do, always a place to go. And so you need to slow down and enjoy the experience. So taking breaks is really good. And it's nice to be able to make deeper relationships with the people that you have around the camp. All right, so that little particular YouTube down here is a documentary that they did. And actually has, I think is it oh, okay, fine. We won't be able to watch that, but you will whenever you hit, whenever you get online. When you hit that little link, it'll take you to a documentary of Gulf War that somebody did. And a bunch of our folks you may be seeing in it because Zini is like the first 5 seconds of the film. She's walking down the thing with one of those big wicker baskets on.
Is it the one with Draco's thing?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
There's one, if you search Off the Cuff on Amazon Prime, it's included with Prime, and the SDA is the first episode of that too.
Ah, cool. Was that the Pensick? Was that the Gulf?
It's Pensick.
Yeah.
Jason is in it for like a second.
Yeah. Okay, so this is like they're really cool, but this is not so now. Some of these things are actually tents they'll set up at Pensick that you can go stay at that costs an arm, a leg, and several other body parts. But it's like, so this is our first one. It's like, yeah, that's cool. That's kind of glamping. That works. And then you have people that are like, well, that's a little nicer, you know. It's like, hey, that's pretty cool. Obviously, a musician that goes out and plays and that sort of thing. But it's like, yeah.
Good Lord.
Along with your wooden hardwood floors.
That's not even fancy.
Yeah, and then these gorgeous, gorgeous places. Somebody's been collecting SCA food for a long time. And the fact that you even have a chandelier, I thought that was really amazing. All right. Are there any questions that y'all have so far?
Well, we made a list.
Awesome.
We love
I will try and confuse you as much as I
It's a
can.
list.
Okay, so we heard that the bathroom / shower situation can be very different depending on what we're essentially going to. So for Warlord specifically, do y'all know what that
Oh, that's easy. Warwood specifically has bathrooms that have showers in them. Whether it will be hot water is debatable. It depends on what time you get there. Although I will say that coming off the fiber field when you're hot and sweaty, cold showers are awesome. Middle of the night, not as much. But you have a better chance of having a hot shower in the middle of the night, so it kind of balances out.
And then for power, is there usually anywhere to get power, or is that primarily your car?
Again, at Warlord, where Steps normally camps, there is a power line. I'm not sure of the wattage on that power line, so you know, a lot of folks rely on those battery powered packs, depending on what your situation is. We can also do.
A lot of the time, if there is power, it's reserved for handicap camping, so
Okay.
people who need medical devices, so.
But if all you need to do is go and charge your phone or something like that, there's plenty of power outlets inside the hall.
Yeah.
For Warlord.
Yeah,
For Warlord.
yeah.
Okay.
Plus, it's also air conditioned in there.
I just want to obviously power phones, but also like camera batteries.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there'll be
yeah.
plenty of inside the
Yeah,
hall.
wherever there's a plug, we've got.
Go hang out there for a few minutes and charge something.
Mhm.
Okay,
And air conditioning is awesome.
Do you like it?
that'll be nice.
Yeah.
And that main building, is there like a bunch of stuff that's gonna be set up in there?
That will be where main courts are and that sort of thing. They'll also be during the time, you usually have music in there, you'll usually have people doing arts and science activities, a lot of the merchants set up in there, at least for Warlord.
Cool.
Plus, there's gonna be at least one peer elevation happening there, so.
Neat.
What else?
Anytime I've ever gone camping, it's always primitive, so.
Yeah, this is a really interesting, it's kind of it's a mixture of primitive and non-primitive. Because on the one side, you've got the people that are doing the full, you know,
Mhm.
wonderful things.
Yeah.
On the other side, you've got the people that are pickles.
Mhm.
But yet you both have access to the same infrastructure. So, you know, some people have more of their infrastructure they bring with them. Some people are able to just kind of adapt and go, hey, whatever. Yes.
Is it necessary to have a tent, or do people have RVs and that sort of thing now?
Yes. At some of the events, we hold them in places that have RV hookups, or you can dry camp in an RV. One of the nice things we had done is we graduated from the air mattress to a pop-up, because we'd gone to a few events where you'd have 6 inches of standing water in your tent. And while it's kind of awesome that you get a cruise along with being at an event, after you've done that a couple times in the air mattress, things are not good. So we went to a pop-up, which was a step up because you're able to like stay dry most of the time. And there are people that go all the way up to the regular RVs, including the Class Cs, but that's usually at the larger events that they have hookups. You can pretty much always do a dry camp wherever you're at.
Warlord Autocrat says we will have RV spots for Warlord.
Plus, there's also hotels
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
within like a 3 or 4 minute drive from
It's
site.
also only an hour from here.
Right.
Yeah.
We figure if it's storming, we probably will
Yeah.
abandon hope on
Yeah.
camping, but
What, a storm at Warlord?
that's all we keep hearing just constantly is, oh yeah, 6
Stories
3
of
feet of
rivers
water in
running
our,
through
and like,
I mean, it's Texas, we have big storms that come through and dump a lot of water really quickly.
Yeah.
No, I get it.
There has never been a storm at Warlord since we've been there in Fairness.
That's,
Pretty
that is
right,
technically true.
They stepped up, and then the pandemic hit. There
Ah,
has never been a warlord.
we take it back.
The power of the Baron, the power of the Baron.
I have got one.
Yes.
You mentioned that the merchants have meal plans. Is it common for groups that camp together to have meal plans too?
It is extremely common for that. Again, one of the nice things of having more people in your camp or households is they usually go in on meals together.
Mhm.
So you'll have, you'll have somebody that has the full kitchen set up. You don't necessarily have to be the one that brings that. You may be bringing, hey, I'm gonna bring all the stuff for, these two meals.
Yeah.
or,
You're a margarita person?
That's right.
You're a chicken
I have a
tender person.
margarita machine. It is 12 volts.
There you go.
Yeah, it was one of the best experiences of my life to roll into Battlemore, my first event, and they're like, you just have to bring breakfast. And I'm like, okay, cool. I brought stuff to do scrambled eggs. And I roll into camp and someone's making homemade gyoza. That everyone's eating at
Oh,
camp.
my.
Cool.
Yeah.
Been doing this all along.
Yeah.
He just brought the big refrigerated bowl of filling and a pile of wrappers and was just frying them and handing them out. It wouldn't be that hard to do.
Cool.
How do you for all of the figuring out where you're gonna camp and making sure everybody knows what's going on and contributing to food, where do you how do you sign up for all of that stuff?
A lot of times our Facebook page, this is our media coordinator,
Nothing
a
more.
media coordinator, so she knows all about media. But a lot of times the Facebook page is the easiest place to get a hold of folks, or Discord.
That'd be the same for the merchants if we want to.
The merchants usually will try and make, we have a merchant coordinator, but the merchants usually will try and make an advertisement. Hey, we're going to be there, either on the event site, which is usually the case, or on little Facebooks for the groups. But usually the event site is your quickest way for merchants and other infrastructure. And for the other stuff, Facebook is probably quicker.
With official baronies and stuff, there's usually a land coordinator who's you give them your tent size and they'll kind of collect everybody's allergies and do a meal plan.
Pretty much any event will have a Facebook event set up for it, so that way if you have questions about the event itself, you can go in and ask a question, or they'll have information on there saying this is a primitive site, or this is what you can expect, all that kind of stuff. Or they may have that on if you go to the link off of the calendar page as well. Okay.
Well, and since we actually are, in the 2022, because you got the Facebook, a lot of times the event steward and us will be checking that throughout the event, so you can throw a question up there and actually get an answer.
Nice. That's great. You mentioned ways to boil water and stuff like that. So there's a couple ways you can do water. Obviously, you can bring big jugs of water. You can find a water source and filter and boil it. What would be your guys' recommendation as far as that goes?
Bring water.
Bring a ton of water.
Just in case. I mean, most of the water you're going to get out of any site is going to be potable because it has to come out of the city water supply, because there's legal requirements for that kind of thing. But if you want to even filter it through a live straw kind of a system,
Some of it's potable and some of it's potable.
I think it's great because all water tastes weird if you don't live there.
Right.
But you just always going by and Target when getting a couple of gallon jugs. You don't have to buy the little individual bottles is a lot more expensive. Just buying a couple of gallon jugs is really good.
Well, we also have those water cubes with the spigot on it, so it doubles as your sink, which is kind of nice.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd still recommend boiling anything you're going to eat or drink.
Sure.
If you've had it in the container for a couple of days and it hasn't been sealed.
Mhm.
We bring one of those big blue jugs, and after a day or so, it needs to be boiled. It's not airtight.
Okay. What else you got?
Make sure you have it. We talked about food. We talked a little bit about washing stuff. Plates just put in the bag. For your little hand washing situation, is it anything special or is it just it's a bowl that you water in for soap?
So yeah, we have one of those jet boils. and it boils about a liter at a time.
Mhm.
And I put a liter of hot water and a liter of cold water in a big jug, and just dip a washcloth in it to clean up.
Okay.
And then I go and I scatter the water somewhere where there aren't tents and where there's lots of greenery on the ground. If you're using a soap that's appropriate for wilderness, then you can scatter the water. Otherwise, you need to put it down a drain into a city water receptacle.
Yeah, gotcha.
Warlord has a sink.
Okay.
Better idea. Battlemore
I mean,
did
like, don't
not.
put your food down the sink, but if you need to,
Yeah.
like, wash your hands or something,
Mm.
there's flush restrooms and stuff at
Oh,
Warlord.
this is luxury.
Yeah, like actual.
Canton's like a,
Okay.
Yeah.
Canton, where we host Warlord, is an actual, it, like, has
Yeah.
a flea market that normal people also use.
Yeah, they do.
Non-Scadians,
Yeah.
normal people.
So they have, the infrastructure that we've got for Warlord is awesome. You will find all the way from primitive all the way up to, primitive porta potty, that sort of stuff. Yeah, there's certain minimums, sometimes really minimum, but when you get to the larger groups and larger events, they're usually places that have a pretty decent infrastructure. You're not always going to have hot water, but you'll always probably have water, that sort of thing.
We're used to really primitive then.
Mm.
We're used to like drive 20 minutes out onto the ranch and just set up in the field where the cows just left.
Some sites are like that, but
Yeah.
Ravensford,
Yeah.
the Stones, what they call it, that one's pretty much like that.
Okay.
Gotta watch your step, the chips are down.
Could try and burn
I
them,
guess
but
a couple of years ago, my daughters were both in American Heritage Girls, kind of, AHG type thing, whatever. And every time we went camping, it was always primitive. Every time. Like, they threw us straight into the deep end.
Yeah.
You
The nice
walk
thing
20
is-
minutes to get to the bathrooms, It's like,
Well, the cool thing is you can show up basically off of your dorm room,
Mhm.
pop down your earth crystal, come out with, your mug full of water or whatever, and take off and do your thing. And you can survive that way because you have enough people around you that are going to be gracious enough to host you. And eventually you'll kind of grow up and grow into it, and then you'll be the host. Because we all remember where we started, and we always remember, how we get more and more stuff. Then you end up looking like the period tense.
I wouldn't want to have to pack all that up there.
Exactly, yeah, and that's
That's what
why,
Squire's for.
yeah,
that's why you take on students of any type, is just to
That's
help
right.
get them to help you tote your stuff around.
It's one way.
Yeah.
It's one way that works.
Or pages like we went to earlier.
Yeah.
yeah. Pages are awesome.
Floki's daughter decided she doesn't want to, like, fight. She just wants to pull wagons. I was like, that's great. You should do that.
Useful skill, drag a wagon around for like $5 an hour or something.
And then I was like, yo, I'll make you a page to drag my wagon around. I, like, got her a belt and everything. She's like, yeah, I'm okay without the belt. And, like, gave it back. I was like, I spent $10 on this. Like, I got her a pink, fun, like, belt.
Any other questions for the internet?
No, we're good on the internet.
Yay!
So for us here in Steps, what are the rundown of local camping events that we're looking at through the year?